Okay, I'm super excited to talk to you about this book, just like I am most books, but um, it's pretty obvious I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I've spent a lot of time reading, especially Star Wars: The High Republic stuff, because I do a podcast about it with my friend Gary, called Starlight Beacon Podcast, or Starlight Beacon, a High Republic podcast. There we go. Today I want to talk to you about Out of the Shadows by Justina Ireland. Now, the High Republic stuff has so far been separated into phases and waves, and this is the second wave young adult novel. Every wave has an adult novel, a middle grade novel, a young adult novel, and some comics going. And then now we're going to even start getting some other stuff. So this is the second wave young adult novel called Out of the Shadows, written by Justina Ireland. And in this book, we follow a character named Sil Yarrow, who has essentially her mother was killed by the Nile. She was left the ship, and as she's traveling one day on this sort of breaking down ship, the ship is barely surviving. She's only got two crew members, one of which is a droid that's like rusted and fallen apart kind of thing. She ends up being like sucked out of hyperspace to where the Nile are, and she, under duress, without really wanting to, is forced to jump in an escape pod with her friends and flee to survive. So she goes to Coruscant to try and convince the Republic, hey, you guys need to be dealing with the Nile more aggressively, because this thing is happening where they're literally like sucking people out of hyperspace, and I don't know how that happens. She ends up being sort of befriended by this guy who, I forget his first name. His last name is Graf. And I'm probably not going to be able to find it very quick. I don't want to obviously sit here on camera trying to find it. But she ends up being befriended by this guy who is part of the Graf family. And the Graf family are very, very wealthy. They have been kind of, learned Xylan Graf. There we go. They have been pursuing knowledge of hyperspace for as long as the Santekis have. In fact, the Santekis and the Grafs are like mortal enemies. Think, long-term, multi-generational enemies. And so Xylan Graf says, there's something else going on, and I need you to help me. And if you help me, I'm going to give you a bunch of money. So she kind of goes along with them. But in the process of that, she finds out that maybe there's more to the story of her mother's death than she thought. At the same time, we spend a lot of time in this book with Vernestra Rwoh, who's right there, right? Vernestra Rwoh, the youngest Jedi Knight that exists right now, barely, like just very, very, very young. No one is given full knighthood at her age, but she's exceeded all expectations. She has under her a Padawan named Emery, who we've seen before as well. And Emery has been struggling with the fact that he has this force ability where he really is an empath. He can feel people's emotions on a much higher level than other people can. And it's starting to affect him and bother him, and he doesn't know how to control it. Vernestra has a force ability that has not really played out in a long time, but that Stellan Gios and really believed would be of value and that she should be training. And it's starting to sort of happen again, and she doesn't know how to control that either. They are sent to go with Xylan and Sil to figure out what's happening out in the Beringa sector of space. And because Xylan feels like their children, sent along with her is another Jedi, and of course I'm blanking because you guys know me with names. And the other Jedi is... His Padawan is Wreath, and the other Jedi is... Comac. Master Comac. So, yeah. So, which Wreath, is the one who is much more, wants to work in a library, not really into action. But he has learned from his encounters into the dark that he needs to take a bigger role in trying to help the galaxy. So we have these four Jedi, this, really a hauler, and we also end up with this Santeca deputy that you'll learn more about. It's a crazy story. It's so good, and there's all kinds of wrestling with the Force, wrestling with how much should we do to stop the evil in the galaxy around us, and all different kinds of people looking at that all different ways. And the very, very end, the last couple of pages, there's a name mentioned that I think is going to play a role in future books that I'm really excited about, and you will be too. So grab yourself a copy of Out of the Shadows and pick it up.